Evaluating functions can be tricky at the beginning, but with enough practice, you will master it. In the previous video, we learned about functions' properties, and we did even work a little on evaluating them. In this video, we are going to focus more on evaluating functions' equations and do some word problems as well. One of the most common things that is done when you're working with functions is getting from an input to an output. In order to do that, you have to have the equation of the function. Then you can substitute the input that you want in the equation. Let's see some examples to learn better. The first example, we say if f of x is equal to x plus 2, then find f of 2. In the previous video, we learned that if you put a value inside this parenthesis here, or this parenthesis here, it means that that value is your input. So this is telling us to find the output when the input is 2. In order to do that, I am going to write f of 2 and I'm going to set it equal to this expression. Then I see that instead of x I have 2. So in my equation or in my expression, wherever I see x, I'm going to substitute 2. So I see 1x here, so I'm going to put 2, then plus 2, and so the answer will be 4. Second example, if g of x is equal to 3x plus 2 minus 5x times 20, I want you to find g of 3. So again, this 3 is our input, and we have to substitute it in this expression wherever we see x. But before that, let's do something else. Let me first simplify this whole thing. So what I'm going to do is I see that I have a negative 5x and a positive 3x. I can add these two. If I add them, I will get negative 2x plus 2, and the whole thing is times by 20. So that this is my simplified equation. So now, to find g of 3, the output for the input 3, wherever I see x in my expression, I have to substitute 3. So negative 2 times by 3 plus 2, and the whole thing is timed by 20. This is going to be negative 6. This is going to be negative 4. Negative 4 times 20 is negative. Third example, if h of t is negative 4.9 t squared plus 40, I want you to find h of 3. Now notice here that our input is not x. Well, we actually don't care. If this is the same number as here, we understand that this is the input, and when I put 3 here, it means that in this expression, wherever I see t, I have to substitute 3. As we did before, h of 3 is equal to negative 4.9 times by 3 squared plus 40. And the answer is negative 4.1. Next example, x of f is equal to 2 to the power of f. If it is, find x of 5. Now we notice something interesting. This time x is out and f is inside. It's not like f of x. How do we understand from it? Well, because we know functions and how is their notation, we know that this x is actually the name of the function here, and this f is actually the input, and we see the input expression as well. So when we have x of 5, this is the 5 that we're going to substitute. So x of 5 is equal to 2 to the power of 5, and the answer is. Next example. F of x is the square root of x. Now find f of 4. So simply you will write f of 4. Now in your expression, wherever you see x, you're going to substitute 4. And the answer is 2. The last one for this type, f of x is 10 over x. I want you to find f of 0. This is really interesting. Why? Because if I do as usual, I will end up with 10 over 0. But you cannot have 0 at the denominator, which means that you cannot divide a number by 0. So what is going on here? Here, we know that there are no answers for this, or we can say that 0 is not in the domain of f of x. It means that 0 cannot be a possible input. If you do not know the meaning of domain or range, make sure to check out our previous video again, as we have explained them briefly. In order to do this, you have to set the expression of the function's equation to the given output and solve for the input. Remember that unlike the previous part, here we can have multiple answers from one output. This is based on one of the most important function's properties that we have taught in the last video. If you don't quite understand the reason, I suggest watching that video first. Let's check out the examples now. Example number 1. If f of x is 3x plus 4 and f of x is equal to 16, I want you to find x. So what does this question ask from us? It says that you have this function with this expression, with this formula. You gave the input and you received the output. The output you received was 16. Now I want you to find the input that resulted in that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the expression or the formula 3x plus 4, and I'm going to set it equal to this number, to 16 here. Now I'm going to use basic algebra to solve for x. I'm going to take this 4, bring it to the other side. 3x is equal to 12. Then I will take this 3 and bring it to the denominator. So x is equal to 12 if divided by 3, or simply 4. This means that if you put 4 into f, you will get 16 as the output. And you can simply check that by substituting 4. So let's do f of 4, and that will be 3 times 4 plus 4, which is 12 plus 4, and it's 16. If this result is the same with this, it means that you've done your work correctly. Second example. G of x is equal to x squared. G of x is equal to 9. So find x. Let's do the same thing. I'm going to write the formula and I'm going to set it equal to this number that is given to me, 9. So x will be the square root of 9, and as a result I will not get 3, but I will get positive and negative 3. It means that the answer can be either positive 3 or can be negative 3. Remember that two separate inputs can give you the same output. One input cannot give you two outputs, but here we're looking at two separate inputs that are giving the same output. And you have to be careful of this. Let's check this. So because we have two inputs here, we have to check it twice. G of 3 is 3 squared, which is 9. G of negative 3 is negative 3 squared, which is 9. As you can see, this number, these two numbers, the same thing, so correct. If h of x is equal to 3x divided by 9x plus 2, find x when h of x is equal to 0.8. Again, I'm going to take the expression 3x over 9x plus 2. I'm going to set it equal to what it's given to me, 0.8, and I'm going to solve this basic algebra. So I'm going to multiply this by this and set it equal to this. 0.8 times 9x plus 2 equal to 3x. So as a result, 7.2x plus 1.6 is equal to 3x. So 4.2x is equal to negative 1.6. And finally, x is negative 1.6 divided by 4.2. The answer is going to be 0.38 negative. One last example for this section. If f of x is x squared minus 3x minus 36, find x when f of x is equal to 4. This is a quadratic expression, and I'd assume that you know how to solve it, how to solve for the roots. If you do not know that, you will not understand what I'm going to do here, but the main idea behind it is still the same. Getting the expression and set it equal to what number we have. From here is just algebra for solving quadratic expressions, which I will show. Again here, we ended up with two answers, and we said that it's okay. In some of the problems that you will have, you may be provided with the input and also be provided with the output. But a part of the equation which is supposed to be a constant is missing, and you have to find that constant. In order to do so, you have to substitute all the inputs, set the expression to the output,
and solve for that constant.
These type of questions is going to be more like this. If f of x is kx plus 2, find k when f of 3 is 8. We know that to solve an equation, when we have only one of them, we need only one variable. If we have two variables, then we cannot solve it. So, in this equation, if we look at it simply like this, we have one variable here, an answer that we don't know, we have a k which we don't know, and we have an x which we don't know. So there are three variables that we don't know, which means we cannot solve this. Now, when it asks you for k, it needs to give you x and it needs to give you this, f of x. So you will end up with something like this. It basically says that the output is 8 if the input is 3. It gave you the input and the output. With that, you can find it. How? So, in this side of the equation, the output is going to be, I'm going to put 8. On this side, I'm going to simply write k and substitute my input, which is 3 plus 2. So I will end up with 8 is equal to 3k plus 2. Now I have a basic direct expression which I can solve for k. So 3k is 6 and k is 2. You can again check if your answer is true by simply substituting x here and then substituting 3 to see if you can find 8. If you find 8, then it means that you had the correct answer. A more complicated one. F of x is ax plus 3 over a. Find a when f of 4 is 5. Again, you have your input and output. We're just going to simply substitute them in our formula. I'm going to do 5 is equal to 4 times a plus 3 over a. Now, I'm going to say 5 is equal to 4a squared over a plus 3a. Why did I do this? If you look at this, you see that this a will cancel with one of those a and you will end up with 4a. But I did this to be able to add these two because they have a common denominator. So 5 is equal to 4a squared plus 3 over a. As a result, 5a is equal to 4a squared plus 3. So 4a squared minus 5a plus 3 is 0. Now again, this is a quadratic expression solving for the root of it. We are solving for the root of it. So if you don't know that, you have to learn that first. So I'm going to find discriminant e squared over 4ac. 25 minus 4 times 4 times 3. Now it's 16. It's 48. And we get a negative 23. Now this is interesting. Because we got a negative discriminant, this means that there is no a that satisfies this equation. Or simply, it means that there was no f of 4 equal to 5 to begin with. This is not possible if there's an a here and there's an a here, because there are no possible a's that can give you this, that can make this possible. Let's get this as challenging as it can get. I'm going to say if g of x is equal to 3ax plus b, and f of x is ax plus 2b, then I want you to find a plus b when g of 3 is 19 and f of 2 is 6. Or so much information here, I know. If you break it down, it's actually easy. Here we have two constants, and to find two variables, to find the answer to two variables, we need two equations. Fortunately, we have two functions, and for both of them we have the input and output. I'm going to get to those two equations by substituting my output and input. So for g, 19 is going to be 9a plus b. How did I get to this 9a? Well, 3 times x, and our x is 3, so 3 times 3 is 9. So 9a plus b is 19. Just to make it look better, I'm going to do 9a plus b is equal to 19, but that's the same thing, it's the same equation. Then I'm going to do the same thing for f. 6 is equal to 2a plus 2b. As I want it to look good, I'm going to do 2a plus 2b is equal to 6. Now I have two equations. I'm going to find b and a. Here, I multiplied this whole expression by 2 so that my b's have the same value, that when I subtract these two expressions from each other, these two b's cancel and I end up only with a's. So if I subtract them, I'll have 16a, and 38 minus 6 is 32. And when I solve for a is going to be 32 over 16, which is 2. Now I have my a. I'm going to take one of these equations. I'm going to take this one because the numbers look much easier. And I'm going to substitute a and find b. So 2 times 2, because that's my a, plus 2b is 6. So 2b is 6 minus 4, which is this 2 times 2. So 2b is 2, and as a result, b is 1. Now I have my b, which is 1, and now I have my a, which is 2. But I'm not done with the question. The question asked me for a plus b. So a plus b is 2 plus 1, and the answer is 3.
We are not going to work on word problems in depth as they need a full video of their own. Still, we can check some of them that are easier to work with in this video.
3. A vending machine gives you 1 can of soda per $2. How many cans of soda can you get with $9? In order to get 4 cans of soda for you and your friends, how much money should you spend on the machine? This is how I would read the question and solve it. If a vending machine gives you 1 can of soda per $2, okay, now I see this as my function. As soon as I see that this is my function. I have a vending machine which takes some money and gives me some soda, cans of soda. And how much is this? So I'm going to call this S of M. S for sodas and M for money. Per $2, you can get 1 can of soda. So it means M divided by 2 and Y, because the amount of money you have, can get that many cans of soda, but half of it. So if you have $10, you will get 10 divided by 2, 5 cans of soda. I found out my function. Then I understood that the question is actually 2 questions. The first one, it says, how many cans of sodas can you get with $9? So it gave you the dollar, the money. What was the money? The money was the input. Okay, so the input was money. Well, we learned in this video that if you had the input and you wanted to get to the output, which is cans of soda, you have to substitute that input into the formula. So I'm going to say S of 9 is equal to 9 over 2. The answer is 4.5. 4.5 is the correct answer. But there's a thing about word problems. Word problems are representing the real life scenarios in most of the cases. So sometimes there are some limitations in the real life. These limitations is that you cannot have half of the soda can. If you're buying sodas from a vending machine, it will give you whole cans. So you will never be able to get 4.5 cans. But you will be able to get 4 cans and keep the rest of the money. You will not get more because you don't have the money to get that, but you will get less. So the answer to part A, I will say, is 4 cans of soda. Now, what was the other question? The other question is says, you want to get 4 cans, how much money? Money was your input, which means that you want to get it. And to get it, you must have the output. The output was the cans of sodas. You have the cans of soda. So, just like we did, you have to set the expression to the output. So M over 2. How many cans of soda did you want? 4. So solve for M. M is $8. Take a look at this question. To rent a party room for your birthday party, you have to pay a $100 fee for the place and $10 fee per person that is in the party for food and beverages. Up until this point, I found my function. The function is how many people are attending, $10 per each of them, and a $100 fee that is inevitable, then gives you how much money you have to pay for the party room. So I'm going to call this f of x simply. I'm not going to concern myself with symbols, though if you like you can do. F of x, I'm going to say that per each person x, you have to pay $10 for food and beverages. And also, no matter how many people attend, you have to pay $100 for the place because you're renting it. So this will be my equation. What it gets for the input is the number of people, and what it gives me for my output is the amount of money I have to spend. Let's get back to the question and see what it asks us. This question is also 2 parts, one part here and one part here. The first part asks us how much money do you have to spend on the birthday party room if you have 10 guests. Okay, so you have 10 guests, which means you have your input, the input was people. So you have to get from the input to the output. But have in mind, that you have 10 guests and you have one for yourself. You want food and beverage as well. So your x will be 11. In order to find the output for an input, you have to substitute that into the expression. So f of 11 is 10 times 11 plus 100. The answer is $210. If you have 10 guests, you will have to spend $210 to the owner of the party room for food, beverages, and the place. Then the second question says if you have $600 to spend, how many guests can you invite? So the budget, the money was the output. The people and the guests were the input. So we're getting from the output to the input. When we do that, we set the formula equal to the output we have. So $600 is equal to 10x plus 100, and we will solve for x. So 10x will be $500, and so x will be 50. And this is 50 people. This means that if you spend $600, if you pay $600 to the guy, you can have up to 50 people for your birthday party. Remember again that if in these questions you got here, you got 50.8 people, that doesn't make sense because people are also whole. So you have to consider this in your answers as well because these questions are mostly based on the real life scenarios. For example, here you had to know that you have to add yourself as well, unless you don't want to eat anything or drink anything that night.